Most troubling things that we have seen in the last few years when it comes to behavior by the government is the effort by the federal government to coerce and otherwise pressure social media companies to engage in mass censorship of private American citizens across a range of topics: COVID-19, vaccines, election. You're telling me you're going to get CISA out of the business of policing narrative control. I mean, narrative control.
Hey, fellow patriots. Welcome back to the channel where we defend freedom, the Constitution, and the American way of life. If you love your country and you're tired of government overreach, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss our fight for liberty. Today, I want to talk about something that should send chills down the spine of every freedom-loving American: the federal government's push to censor your speech, and how one senator just called them out point blank in a recent hearing. I'm talking about CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and their nominee, Mr. Planky, who got grilled over some absolutely outrageous censorship schemes. Let's break down what happened, what it means, and why you should care.
The most troubling things that we have seen in the last few years when it comes to behavior by the government is the effort by the federal government to coerce and otherwise pressure social media companies to engage in mass censorship of private American citizens across a range of topics: COVID-19, vaccines, elections, school board meetings. And unfortunately, the agency that you've been nominated to lead was right in the thick of it, CISA. Much to that agency's shame, I must say, and I think in direct violation of the First Amendment of the United States, because what the Supreme Court has said over and over is the federal government cannot use private entities to do what the First Amendment bars the federal government from doing. And as you probably know, there's been much litigation about this. The discovery in that litigation is damning for many agencies in the federal government, including CISA. So my question is, what are you going to do to ensure that CISA gets out of the speech regulation business, the surveillance business when it comes to private American citizens, and gets back into what it's supposed to do, which is actually to keep us safe, not to regulate our speech, not to follow us around online, but to be stopping cyber attacks and ensuring cybersecurity?
Senator, thank you for that question. I believe to be an important one, and so does Secretary Noem and President Trump. It is not CISA's job, and nor is it in its authorities to censor or determine the truths, whether it be on social media or in any level of media. CISA will not do any of that work, will not be a part of any of that work if I am confirmed. I'd like to focus CISA on what it's mandated to do, and that's protect the federal civilian executive branch, as well as protect the critical infrastructure of the United States. Cybersecurity is a big enough problem. We have adversaries at our door, inside our house, and all over us every day. If confirmed, I need my people at CISA to be focused on eradicating those adversaries from the federal government, computer systems, as well as critical infrastructure of the United States.
Let me just read some of the euphemisms that your predecessor used to talk about CISA's mission and the censorship effort: narrative control, perception management, information integrity. That one's my favorite. You're telling me you're going to get CISA out of the business of policing narrative control. I mean, narrative control, good Lord. I mean, what could be more Orwellian than that? A federal government, the most powerful government in the world, engaged in narrative control? So your testimony here is that you will get CISA out of this business. You will comply with the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, and you will not engage in censorship of American citizens of any kind. Am I understanding you correctly?
Senator, to put it bluntly, yes, you are understanding me correctly.
Good. Let's talk about what that's going to look like in the election context. Obviously, CISA has important election security work, protecting our election infrastructure. That's important work. That's designated by statute. That, however, is different than monitoring political speech and monitoring political campaigns. How are you going to draw a line? Tell us how you're going to make the line clear between cybersecurity protections for our elections and political content moderation, which again is unfortunately what your agency has been involved in recent years.
Senator, thank you for that question. If confirmed, CISA's role election security is a subsector of critical infrastructure, and it's election infrastructure that is the piece of that. And the president has already given guidance on this in his recent executive order. That guidance says that the Department of Homeland Security will focus on electronic election systems, so e.g. like a voting system, and that a American might use to vote, to ensure that it is assessed prior to an election that there is no adversarial actions or vulnerabilities in it. Now that is tasked in the president's executive order that he has already thought of, down to DHS. If Secretary Noem tasks CISA to do that, which I could imagine she likely will, my team, if confirmed, will focus on the assessments of that election infrastructure.
Good. Well, everything you said to me is encouraging. I'm glad to hear it. I know that you appreciate that CISA has a major trust deficit given what's happened in the last 4 years. And that's a problem because, we've gone so far in this body. There are tasks that, frankly, CISA ought to be performing, including things related to like the security of rural hospitals, which is very important to me, very important to my state. 40% of the hospitals in my state are rural. We need the cybersecurity help. But frankly, we've been very reluctant to use CISA for any of this because CISA has been a surveillance and censorship machine for the last 4 years. This has got to stop. We've got to get this agency back on track, and I hope that you're the right person to do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let's set the stage. Over the past few years, we have witnessed an unprecedented effort by the federal government to pressure social media companies to silence American citizens. COVID-19, vaccines, elections, school board meetings, you name it, they wanted it censored. And let's be clear, folks, this isn't some wild conspiracy theory. There are lawsuits, there's discovery, there's evidence. We know for a fact that CISA and other agencies were right in the middle of this. The senator in that hearing didn't mince words. He said flat out that this is a violation of the First Amendment. And he's right. The government is not allowed to do an end run around the Constitution by using Facebook, Twitter, or anyone else as their censorship arm. The First Amendment is clear. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. That means the government can't silence you, period. Not directly, not indirectly. Not through backroom deals with big tech. And did you catch those Orwellian buzzwords? Narrative control, perception management, information integrity. Folks, that's straight out of George Orwell's 1984. When the most powerful government in history talks about narrative control, you'd better believe your rights are at risk. The senator asked the new nominee, Mr. Planky, if he would put a stop to CISA's censorship. Planky said, yes, he'd get CISA out of the speech policing business. He said he'd focus on real cybersecurity, protecting our infrastructure from foreign adversaries, not from Americans with opinions. Listen, I'm not opposed to cybersecurity. In fact, I think it's one of the few legitimate roles of the federal government, protecting our critical infrastructure, our power grids, our hospitals, our election systems from bad actors overseas. That's what CISA is supposed to do. But when they start spying on Americans, surveilling your Facebook posts, deciding what's true or false, that's when they cross a line. That's when the government becomes the enemy of the people, not their protector. And the senator made a great point. Because of this censorship scandal, people don't trust CISA anymore. Even when our rural hospitals, 40% of which in his state are rural, need help with cybersecurity, they don't want CISA involved because they've turned into a censorship machine. Now, Planky claims he'll draw a clear line. He says CISA will focus on the electronic systems, the actual voting machines, the IT that counts our votes. That's good. That's what we want. We need secure elections, but we do not need the government monitoring our political speech, our campaign discussions, or our right to criticize the system. And President Trump's executive order supposedly makes this clear. DHS, and by extension CISA, are to stick to the technical side of elections, not the speech side. Let's hope Planky keeps his word, but let's not kid ourselves. We've heard these promises before. Fellow patriots, we have to stay vigilant. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. If we let our guard down, even for a second, these agencies will be right back to their old tricks, censoring, surveilling, and silencing dissent. The senator was absolutely right to call them out. He was right to demand accountability. But it's not enough to take these bureaucrats at their word. We need oversight. We need transparency. We need consequences for those who trample the Constitution. And we need to keep fighting for our right to speak, to assemble, to challenge the narrative. Because if we lose free speech, we lose America. So here's what I want you to do. Share this video. Talk to your friends and family. Call your representatives and demand that they hold these agencies accountable. Demand that they protect your rights. And never, ever let the government decide what you can and cannot say. If you're fired up about this issue, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about CISA's role in censorship and what we should do to protect our freedoms. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the movement to take our country back. God bless you. God bless the Constitution, and God bless the United States of America.